The Miami Hurricanes are the perfect example of why the current college football playoff is flawless. With, of course, the exception of a Tulane and a James Madison getting in. We should have instead had a Notre Dame and a BYU. Regardless, is a system in which you are judged by your overall body of work as opposed to one pellet on the wall, you're done. See, back in the old BCS system, you lost a Week 11 game on a walk-off field goal. Unless you're in the SEC, you're dead. Your season is over. Even the first initial college football playoff era, which came from the 2014 to the 2023 season, you had a situation like in 2023 where you had an argument for three teams to meet in that 4 seed. You had Alabama, who did get as the 4 seed, we lost one game to playoff Texas, won the SEC championship game against the defending national champion Georgia. We should be in. You had a Florida State team that said, yeah, we played a Power 5 conference and we literally won every single game we played. And then you had a Georgia team. It's like, we were the back-to-back national champions, number 1 team in the country all year long. We lose by 3 points to Bama and we're out. It was kind of an unjust system. Now, if you don't get in, sorry, sucks to be you, I guess. That's on you. In the case of Miami Hurricanes, oftentimes they, like a lot of people, a lot of successful people, industries, business, whatever the case may be, are judged on their worst moment. The Miami Hurricanes, by many, and I'll be honest, including myself at times, were judged on, lost at home to Louisville. Now, Louisville was like a good team, but not in the level of Miami talent-wise. You lost to SMU, playoff team last year, but not nearly as good in 2025. How does that happen? But then now with yesterday's win against Ole Miss, which we'll get into kind of the game in just a second, they're 7-0 against ranked teams. 7-0. I mean, does that matter? Does that have any bearing? Does that hold any weight when we talk about who the best teams in America are? When some are still saying today, and I think kind of looks pretty foolish, hey, Notre Dame should have been in. Miami literally beat them. I mean, does the Week 1 game just not matter at all now? Sorry, Notre Dame, you don't play in a conference. You're not scheduling the big boys of the Big Ten or some of the good teams in the SEC. You've got a big dog in Miami, big dog in A&M. You lost to both, by the way. Miami beat both. Beat you and, of course, beat Texas A&M in their first playoff game. And then you got a USC team that was good but not special. Lost a bowl game to TCU. Pitt, Miami crushed them too, so that negates that. Join a conference. Regardless, what this Miami team represents is what I think old school college football fans love. Pushing you around, dominating the line of scrimmage. Last night, that game, with the exception of the last second game-winning drive, I mean, margin of victory, 3 points or 4 points. The rushing differential, the offensive line play, last night looked very similar to that Week 1 game against Notre Dame, where you look, you're like, oh gosh, close game. Ole Miss fought, they hung in there. There was multiple lead changes in the fourth quarter. Trinidad Chambliss made all kinds of plays. He was sensational last night. Oh, you got this kid, CJ Carr at Notre Dame. He's making some big throws. First start on the road at Hard Rock Stadium. But then you watch the game, you watch the film, and in some ways it's reflected in the box score, and you're like, oh, they had 191 rushing yards. Ole Miss had 121. They moved the football at will. They controlled the line of scrimmage. And this is with a game plan with Carson Beck, who, to his credit, came up clutch late. But a Carson Beck, I couldn't tell if I was watching the Miami Hurricanes or the Miami Dolphins, more on Mike McDaniel, about 10 minutes, where it's just it felt like 60% of the throws were behind the line of scrimmage. Matter of fact, I think mid-fourth quarter, Chris Fowler mentioned something like Miami hasn't completed a pass beyond the line of scrimmage in the second half because they don't trust Carson Beck. Because they've got this 18-year-old Malachi Toney who's, I mean, is he my height? Is he a little bit taller and cannot be brought to the ground? How many times did he break tackles in the first half when he got a first down on third down to keep a drive going? Or when he broke away for the touchdown in the fourth quarter? You got the running back Fletcher, who I told you, if you don't know Mark Fletcher Jr.'s story, listen, Google it. His mom is the GOAT. It's a great kid. Love the story. They push you around both offensively and defensively. That's Mario Cristobal's MO. That's what's great about this new college football playoff. It's you are allowed room for error. We saw it literally last year with Ohio State. Ohio State mows through everybody, lose a close game to Oregon and Eugene. We're not going to punish them too much for that. And they lose at home to Michigan, a Wolverines team a year ago that could barely complete a 4 pass. Like, what? Huh? But their resume to that point, they're like, oh, okay, yeah, you beat Penn State on the road. Like, oh, yeah, over the course of the year, you have shown yourself to be the best team or one of the best teams in the country. You lost to number 1 Oregon. You had a hiccup against Michigan. Like, it happens. Ohio State played with a chip on their shoulder, whether it was for the job security of Ryan Day, whatever the case may be. And they mowed over my Tennessee Volunteers, and they really mowed over Oregon in the Rose Bowl, beat Texas and beat Notre Dame in a semifinal national championship game. In the current NIL era, in the transfer portal era, where the scales have been balanced to a certain degree, and we'll get to this in the SEC in just a moment, to where there is not one conference just dominating everybody as it pertains to recruiting. NIL's level the playing field. Conference realignment. That's why we have the playoff system that we have. Again, I still think it could use some tinkering. I don't think that unless you are ranked in the top 12, if you win the Sun Belt Conference or the American Conference, that you should be an automatic bid, because for reasons that no one's entirely sure, Miami didn't have enough tiebreakers to get in the ACC championship game, but 7-5 Duke did. Get your act together, ACC. The committee, to their credit, judge Miami at their best. Because it's one thing, I've talked about this with the MVP debate, because folks have kind of looked at this with the Drake May, Matthew Stafford thing. And I've talked about that. May's regular counting stats are better. May and Stafford, against similar opponents, against common opponents, May's better. But against winning teams, against teams with against playoff teams, May's 1-2 with, I think, like 4 touchdowns, 2 picks. Stafford's 4-3 with 20 touchdowns, 1 pick. It's something against Drake May. I think he's sensational, but that's why I give Matthew Stafford the league MVP. Same thing with Miami. Yeah, Notre Dame went a 10-game winning streak to end the season. Who the heck they beat? USC? USC was good, but are they that much better than SMU and Louisville? And so this new playoff format gives you room for error, gives you an opportunity. Man, sometimes you just have a bad day at the office. This is the system, again, with the exception of automatic bids, which we saw at the 11 and 12 seed with Tulane and James Madison. No business being among the 12 best teams of playoff, but that's different discussion for a different day. You see a situation where, okay, the best team is decided. The champion is decided. Miami goes on the road to A&M, outplays the Aggies on the road in College Station, Kyle Field, one of the toughest places to go win a football game. They play an Ohio State, defending national champion Ohio State Buckeyes team with extra time to prep, push them all over the field. And yesterday against Ole Miss, it took a game-winning drive, but they pushed Ole Miss all over the field, by and large. Credit to Ole Miss for putting up 27 points. I honestly, I didn't think they'd be able to do that. But Miami was a better team yesterday. There's no question about it. And they deserve to advance the next round. Again, as for Ole Miss, listen, honest to God, credit to those players in that program to have gone through what they went through in the last month, where, oh my gosh, 11-1, we're going to be in the playoff. This is going to be one of the greatest, if not the greatest, Ole Miss team in history. And our coach bails on us last second. And he's trying to purge the staff, his staff, I guess, to bring guys to LSU. I'm sure he's trying to purge our locker room, try and bring some Ole Miss players with them to Baton Rouge. And those guys band together to beat Tulane. Of course, they beat Tulane. Go to the Sugar Bowl, beat Georgia team that had just beaten them, handed their only loss before last night, and then give Miami all they can handle. A Miami team that, frankly, I think is better. There's a reason they were favored in the game. There's a reason they won the game. There's a reason that they won the line of scrimmage. They're a better football team. And so, but kudos, honest to God, that's as impressive a team effort as you will see. So kudos to Ole Miss. And listen, I'm really curious, now that Ty Simpson is declared for the draft, I imagine, unless he just doesn't want to play for the Jets, which I don't blame you, Dante Moore, if you don't want to play for the Jets. No young quarterback does. But let's say it's Mendoza, Dante Moore, the clear 2 best quarterbacks in next year's draft. Then you've got Ty Simpson, who most have as like a late first-round prospect if a team's desperate enough. Hopefully not my Steelers. They'll draft him mid-first round. I'm really curious to see how Trinidad Chambliss is evaluated. The accuracy, by and large, pretty good. able to make plays in and outside the pocket. Now, some of these extending plays, we saw this with Caleb Williams, with Kyler Murray. Like, you can do it to a degree in the NFL, not like you can in college. All right, you got big 6'4", 330-pound defensive tackles that can move out there. So, like, you can't pull the stuff in the NFL that you can in college. We know this. But if you give an opportunity, maybe sit for a year and a half behind a good veteran starter. I don't know, like if you're a Carolina Panthers, let's say you get the doors blown off you against the Rams. Do you take Trinidad Chambliss in the second round? I'd consider it. So, good kid too, great family. But Miami was without question the better team yesterday. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.